Noodles and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, up on TSN 4, up on YouTube Live. Brian Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. How's it going this afternoon?
Boys, I'm very fatigued, unfortunately.
Yeah?
2 days in a row.
What does that mean?
Because last night, the battery died on my phone. Because I was reading tweets from egg avatars and Brian's 1495775 accounts that were calling me a dinosaur because I'm not up to snuff on analytics, and I almost had a meltdown.
Well, that's
I got
disappointing.
bombarded with people that live on their couch in their parents' basement who think they know about analytics.
How do you know that, though, that they live on their parents' couch?
Because I know. I can tell.
How do you know that?
If you give me an X account with no pick and it's Brian 1457779,
Yeah.
guaranteed he's in his parents' basement in his underpants just typing away on a keyboard.
All right.
1,000,000%. Twitter or X should start a new thing where you can only tweet if you have a pick and your job and your name and you're a real person. It's the only way you can do it.
Well, I thought I saw you going back and forth with someone that did have that yesterday. Had their name, had a picture.
Oh,
right?
Steve-O.
Yeah,
Steve-O.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that goes against what you're saying. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's got a mortgage, right? I think he's had a pretty good future ahead of himself.
Okay, Brian, you know what? Get him on. Get Steve on.
No,
Let's
I
see
don't
what he
care
has
to have
say.
Steve on. That's
right,
not my
because
point.
he's a
That's
loser.
no, he's not
exactly.
a loser.
Yeah, he is.
Not a loser. I don't know Steve. I'm just saying. I hear you. I get it. We've both been in the crossfires this week, right? You're being labeled a dinosaur, evidently.
Wait a second. I'm confused because I thought you were relabeling as O-Dog AI.
That's right. See, he's actually spinning this all the way around where he's turning eye test into AI and he's going to morph into a superpower. That's the
By the
O-Dog's
way,
future.
numerous people brought to my attention, which I expressed yesterday, you don't queue up AI by saying, how dumb of an idea was this idea by O-Dog? You say, what do you think about a person who you teed AI up to make me look like a fool? Do you understand what I'm saying?
You got to understand, though. You got to manipulate AI a little bit, Dave, right? You got to be very specific with asking them a question, right? Like, because if you ask them something and they don't know the answer to it or they don't know the context to it, they'll just say, sorry, we can't help you with that. And the whole purpose of it was you versus AI, not you in conjunction with AI. Not you being.
This guy queued up the Tin Man yesterday, Fast Chalk, and the thing was like belittling me on air.
It was a debate, and then we got to determine who we thought was actually more, basically on point.
Right.
With certain questions, like who's going to win the
Dave,
Jack Adams.
Dave, take a wild guess who Hayes think totally, completely won the contest.
The AI.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I'm an egg avatar, and I live in my parents' basement.
That's right.
so that would explain it.
I mean, I think this is an untapped market for you, O-Dog. Like O-Dog AI, you could have, if you don't feel like working one day, you could just bring in Robo-Dog.
That's a great idea. How about on the panel? I'll bet you by the third period tonight on the
I got
panel.
way too much respect for you to bring up Robo-Dog idea, because next thing I know, I'm going to get emails. A costume of Robo-Dog I'm going to have to wear on Free Agent Frenzy.
Yeah.
It's just enough.
It's the way the world's going, man.
Yeah. But honestly, Hayes, I don't know. People just love attaching themselves. They're like, all of a sudden they're analytics. It's like this team down the street was built on analytics. You know how many playoff series they won? 1.
Yeah.
So now they're just hankering for another analytics type team. Are they insane?
Well,
what about some of the people don't understand what I know goes on behind the scenes. Like analytics, they're a tool. Yes, everybody uses them if you're trying to sign a defenseman. But what I love the most is Connor McDavid will have a great week, and then somebody on Twitter will say, "Wow, look at this week from Connor McDavid. Led the league in zone entries, shots on net, stick touches, Skating burst? No kidding. It's low-hanging fruit. Anybody could do that. Like, what are we doing
I get
here?
it, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. I mean, here's
okay.
my stance on this. No, I'm somewhere in between. The way I see this is the idea that you need Keith Pelley or any other executive when you're going into a job search, the idea of suggesting it's a requisite that you're informed seems somewhat unnecessary.
Yeah.
Right? Like the idea that you have to suggest to the world, we want someone that actually puts work in and effort in and knows all of the details that are available about any player or any coaching, prospective coach. That should go without saying. Like the idea that you need to promote you're looking for that or that's an expectation seems pretty silly.
I'll tell you one thing I think that's been misconstrued by that comment from Pelly that's led to all this, O-Dog, and all the flack you've been getting on the Egg Avatar social media site. What Pelly was saying, the guy's got to be data-centric, that was a shot at Brad Treliving. That was a shot at the current management team that was not paying attention to the data. Because let's be honest here, like I was just down at that Sloan Analytics conference. We're 20 years. They've been doing that thing for 20 years. Analytics is old now. Everybody that's a decent professional sports team has got a pretty robust analytics department.
Well, Brad,
I mean,
Pridham's a pretty smart guy, Festruck.
Yeah.
Do you think non-analytics would slide by his desk?
But he doesn't make the final call.
But that's the thing. The point Pelly was making.
You're taking offense to stuff that isn't offensive, dude. It's on there's a
Brian,
GM
I'm not
that makes
taking
a call.
offense to anything. I don't really care.
Well, okay.
But I think it's a conversation that's it's an old conversation. Like the big conversation down at the analytics conference this year was, if everybody has all the same analytics, what are we even doing here?
Right.
Like, what is the point of analytics when we all have the same analytics? We all come to the same conclusions, Well,
and I guess that's where, whoever the person in charge is that has the ultimate call, there's always going to be a gut feel that goes into it, an element of gambling that goes into it. And I think where it's most evident would be in a draft. Like, you can't make evidence-based decisions on an 18-year-old kid and project you can't rely on AI to give me a projection for the next 20 years of what this 18-year-old kid's going to be, because you just don't know how much more growth is there. You can't possibly have enough information on what they're doing in their personal lives, what they're doing behind the scenes. If you're just looking at a combine, then go ahead. And sometimes you'll hit, but a lot of times you won't. So that's the whole point. There's got to be a human element to it. And I know that's what you're expressing, but it's you got to have both. And what you're saying, Dave, is everyone's doing both.
Right.
So and guess what? There's 32 teams in the league. There's going to be half of them are going to be good, half of them are going to be bad, and it's cyclical.
Right.
And I'm not sitting here defending Brad Treliving. Like Brad, Treliving, he's done some good things, some bad things. The team is in a position right now where the narrative hanging around the team is, you should lose tonight. That's tough to explain to your bosses, that your fans are openly advocating for losses so that you can keep a pick you traded away in a deal that looks worse and worse by the day. He also doesn't have a previous stop in the league that you can point to and say, give him a second chance, because don't forget about what happened there.
Right. Because
if you do that, you look at Calgary and they're actually worse than the Maple Leafs.
Yes.
So Treliving did not really have a leg to stand on. I mean, it would have been a tough pitch for him to keep his job or to get an extension. But now you've got to figure out how you're going to transition this into the future. And being cutting edge is important. But I think to your point, cutting edge analytically was like 20 years ago.
Right.
Now I don't know what the next cutting edge is. I don't have that answer.
Well, it might be AI.
I guess so, but again, you're dealing with people. Like you're in the people industry. There are not going to be robots playing for the Maple Leafs in our lifetime. There might be in the future. Who knows?
Maybe
the Leafs will finally win a cup.
Yeah.
Right? If it ever gets to that point. But if you're in the people industry, you analytically driven, data driven, evidence-based people can't be prepared based on what they're doing with a spreadsheet on real life stuff being thrown at you. Case in point, what's happening in Ottawa today, right? No one could sit there and say, let me go back to the computer and figure out what happens when our captain goes on a podcast with his dad. There's no evidence for that.
No.
There's no data for that. There's no way to prepare yourself for that. You know what you got to do? You got to be a people person. You got to have real life experience, and you got to make sure that somehow you get a message across where it resonates with your players, because the Senators, like, they got Buffalo in town tonight, and it is just a circus around this team. Like an absolute circus around this team right now, with the Kachuk podcast, with the Allmark stuff, with, they've had a lot of stuff go on around them. They finally made the playoffs last year for the first time in 6 or 7 years. Now they might miss. And now you're going to question going into the offseason, what is the future of Brady Kachuk? What are they going to do with their goaltender, who's their most important player? Their captain. It's crazy.
Wasn't the podcast, Keith Kachuk was talking about the St. Louis Blues and Grant Fuhrer and how old school he was and how he never missed a game. And now everyone's taking it like, do you think he's stupid enough to take a shot at the kid who's a captain of an NHL team's goaltender? I don't know. Like, do you have the clip where he talks about Grant Fuhrer?
I don't know if it's the Grant Fuhrer clip, but we've got...
Well, make sure it is, because it's
Well, we got
context.
a couple of clips. Yeah, okay, that's valid. It is important. And listen, I'll say this about the Kachucks, man. Whoever their PR is loving life right now.
Oh.
What a promotion for a podcast that has not had a ton of life so far. The clips I've seen, it's like pretty standard, vanilla, basic stuff.
The Austin Matthews one,
That was interesting because they delved into
another team,
the Maple Leafs, and a different team.
Right.
Yeah, and now this is about their own team in large part. But, Keith Kachuk is an outspoken guy who is everyone I've spoken to, you know him, people that have played with him said greatest teammate ever, a great guy. And I think it was fascinating because he's shooting from the hip and he's being honest. And this is a clip from the Kachuk podcast where their dad, Keith, is talking about modern athletes and fighting through injuries.
I had a big cast on because I broke my wrist or something in the Olympics. So, yes, that's what happens. You play through injuries, guys. Holy Christ, this whole team. My pinky hurts. I'm out for 6 days.
I knew that was coming. I knew right when he said that, I'm like, don't say it. I'm like, don't you say it.
I just had a bad sleep, so I can't play today. Oh, my God. Disgusting.
All right, well, we're going to move on here.
Can't play back-to-back.
So
Risk management.
That is crazy. I mean, back-to-back, that used to not be whatever.
Okay, so the Grant Fuhrer clip comes right after that. We'll get it. We'll play it. The bad sleep, can't play today, people are going to connect that to Allmark. Whether he's talking about Allmark or not, we'll find out, because Keith will probably... He might speak on it. Brady did not speak today. Brady Kachuk, the captain, did not speak today, which is rare. It's not rare for a goalie not to speak. It was reported that Allmark didn't speak. He never speaks on a game day. Goalies never speak on a game day.
Sometimes doesn't play on a game day.
Sometimes doesn't play on a game day. I'm guessing he'll speak after the game. We'll see. Maybe it depends on how he plays. Brady will speak after this, but it is a sensitive topic in the marketplace. Allmark, how to handle it. Brady's future, right? He took a lot of heat post-Olympics, and that market in particular seemed to kind of pounce on him. But, Keith, he may come out and say, I wasn't talking about that, or I was talking about Florida because the Panthers are dealing with a lot of injuries, or I was talking about my own era and just amplifying how we used to work. But it's a big, big story. And this is literally what you always talk about. Some guy, like two brothers in their dad's basement on a podcast that is actually going to cause a real stir here.
I'll tell you, the only thing that will make talking to the media easier tonight, Hayes, if they lose this one, like, they got problems, right? So if they win, it'll be a lot easier to go out there and say there's nothing to see here. Like, you I don't know, whatever he's going to say. But
who do you think has more pressure to perform tonight, Allmark or Brady?
Without question, it's the goaltender. They're the team in the league that's known that they would be near the top of the division if they had average to better goaltending all season long. That is the main reason that they are in the position that they are in. I don't think anybody can argue that. I don't think it's a hot take. It's a fact.
No, it's 100% factual.
Yeah, they have the worst save percentage in the league for the. I don't even know if it's to date, but for a long time, worst goaltending metrics.
Yes,
in the league.
Good evidence-based take right there.
Very good evidence-based take. Great data. Oh, Doug.
Yes, please don't say great dad on this show ever again.
But look, Keith Tkachuk, in this, there's 3 of them, so let's be specific. Papa Tkachuk has plausible deniability. He could say he wasn't talking about whoever. But look, it's pretty obvious he was talking about the game against the Lightning a few days ago, where the Senators had a full day off before that game, and they're playing in Tampa, and everybody's thinking, why wouldn't Ullmark start? It's not a back-to-back. It's a full day off, paying the guy $8.25 million, but they started James Reimer, and then when Travis Green was asked about it after the game, he said, and I quote, "I want to play Linus every night, but he needed a rest and was unavailable to start."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I be careful what you say, Dave, because I found it interesting that people were coming at me after that. I commented on this saying it's not a league where you pick and choose when you want to play. And people came at me, the same guys that are in their basement and doing their thing. They're like, you don't understand mental health. I do understand mental health. I was in the league and had mental health problems, but I decided to keep it to myself and continue to play. But once you decide to put the jersey on, you're judged as being 100%. So if it's mental health, you either got to take a step away or let the team know you're dealing with something, as opposed to having a jersey on, being on the bus, a member of the team, and picking and choosing when you want to play. That's not part of the NHL. If there's issues, you got to step away and deal with them. If you want to sign up and be on the bus and on the team and put the jersey on, then you're expected to play. Very simple.
And Ullmark was the backup that day. Like, he was available to play. If Reimer got hurt, he would have played.
Right. And, Hayes, how many times have we said, if you're going to put your gear on and be a backup, how come you can't play? Because there might be a chance you get thrown in there.
Yes, absolutely. That could have been the case for sure on Saturday. And listen, Ullmark's going to go tonight. Now, there's the deep-rooted conspiracy theorist, and I don't believe this is what Keith was doing. Keith Tkachuk is an open, honest guy, but he famously came on this station. He was on First Up a few years ago with Kolyakovo and Korolnik, and took serious shots at the Florida Panthers. And I believe he called them soft, among other things. Like, really took a run at them. And I don't know if that inspired them or not, but they backdoored their way into the playoffs, and they went all the way to a Stanley Cup final. And a big issue that year was, maybe some guys not playing, and their goaltender was not any good. Bob wasn't playing. They were saying, Bob, they knew you have to be our guy, but you're not. I think it was it Alex Lyon at that time?
It was.
Who had taken over at that point. Is this possibly going to inspire Ottawa? I doubt it, but do they have a similar, like, they're not made up the same way Florida was, but if they get in, could they not scare some teams like the Panthers did? Like, we keep talking all year about how the East doesn't scare anyone. That year, the Bruins were historically great.
I think get in and get healthy, they could scare some
That's
teams.
what I'm saying. Like, they get in, they get healthy. You think Carolina wants to play, like Sanderson? I don't know if he's back tonight, but he's coming back soon. Shabbat likely not available in the first round. That's a hit. Jensen, not likely available in the first round. But you get Sanderson back. You get Ullmark playing, which, again, we'll see. But it was the same conversation with Bob. Now, Bob was a better goalie and capable of more. Had won multiple Vezinas, but Ullmark's won a Vezina.
And Keith Tkachuk didn't take a shot at Bobrovsky.
No, exactly. But he was talking in general, the whole makeup of the team. This would be wild if they found a way to backdoor in and went on a run. And Keith Tkachuk goes, all part of the plan.
Yeah.
All part of the plan to take a little shot at one of my son's teams.
Hazy, why don't you give me some metrics right now? How many games they have left? Look on your little computer there.
Yeah, I got all the metrics right in front of you. They have 8 games left.
Stop saying metrics.
You just said it.
No,
you asked for metrics.
I threw one out there.
All right, data.
How many games left, and what do they got to do to get in?
Okay, they
basically have to win out?
No. But they have put themselves in a position where there's one wild card spot available. Effectively, Boston, Montreal, Tampa, Buffalo have separated for the most part. Obviously subject to change. If Boston goes 1-6 down the stretch, it will change things. But those 4 Atlantic teams are likely in, so that opens the door for one wild card spot. But they're 2 points back of Columbus with a game in hand. Detroit isn't scaring anyone right now. Detroit's folding. Philly's a very good story. I kind of sense they might run out of gas here and may not complete the journey. So if you're Ottawa, you have games in hand. You're 2 points back. You got Buffalo tonight at home. Tough game. You got Minnesota and Carolina and Tampa and Florida rolling through town next. Tough games. But at the Islanders, at Jersey, home to the Leafs at the end of the season, they've got a big homestand here over the next 8 nights. Buffalo, Minnesota, Carolina, Tampa, Florida. The Panthers are done. I know they just spanked them the other night. That I fully expect they roll into town tanking and Ottawa wins that game. Can they go 3-1 against Buffalo, Minnesota, Carolina, Tampa? That's tough. It's a very tough 4-pack of games, but they're all at home. There's only one back-to-back, so you presume Ullmark will play 3 of the 4. If they can go 3-1 there, they can get in. But it starts tonight, and Buffalo's looking to punch a ticket. They can make the playoffs for the first time in 15 years tonight, or 14 years.
And they've been 5-1 squashing teams for a long time. They had a little blip about 10 days ago where I think they dumped 3, but they win 4-0, 5-1 on the reg.
They'll be ready to play tonight.
The reg.
They will be ready to play tonight. So it's a big night. And Doogie actually sent a list of all the things that have changed kind of in pop culture and trends over the past 15 years, since the last time the Sabres made the playoffs. We got a list of them. We'll come back and get into them because we've got our boy Martin Biron coming up.
Well, you two are the smart ones of this program. You have to come up with one question that Marty can respond with this or that or the other thing.
Yes, we will get one of those. It's mandatory. Anytime Marty's on.
I'm leaving it on Fast Chuck. He's a writer. He's brilliant. This, that, or the other thing. 3 options.
You gotta have. So we've got a topic and 3 possible options for Marty. All right? So there's a lot on the line here, Fess.
All right.
I know you're going to Augusta soon. Your head may be in the azaleas.
Very true.
Right? But you need to bring the heat here.
All right.
Speaking of that, you see Phil Mickelson's out of the Masters.
What a shame.
Yeah, he's got family.
Something personal going on.
Yeah.
But that's first time in 33 years, Phil and Tiger both out of the Masters. Neither guy there for the first time in 33 years.
Won't be the same.
Those are the 2 faces of Augusta in my lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, like I obviously Jack in '86, but I was so young to an extent. Faldo in the '90s, but really it's been the Tiger and Phil show for 30 years.
Yeah. I saw some that's the thing about speaking of AI, like some of this apparent. I have to say apparent Tiger Woods police cam footage. You don't even know if it's real because who knows if somebody can make that video. But if it is real. He just looks terrible in that car.
Yeah, it's scary, man. Like, it's really scary that he was behind the wheel. Like,
yes.
It's really troubling.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredibly troubling, and he's incredibly lucky to be alive. There's no other way to put it, and he's taken a step away. Let's hope he gets the necessary help he needs. But, it's not good for Tiger. It's not good for Tiger, and now Mickelson obviously not there. Not for the same reasons, but Phil not being there. Like, not even there for the Champions Dinner either, I don't believe. So, again, not that matters that much to the average fan, but it's what makes Augusta and the Masters so great is they're all around. You know, like Tiger's kicking around and Mickelson's kicking around and Couples is there and Faldo's there and
Stads.
Woozy and Stads and, you know.
I think that's a big part of Augusta. People, it's like the World Golf Convention, right? Like it's like everybody comes, and it's as much about the tournament as it is about the tradition and, you know, talking about the old times as it is about talking about who's going to win this year. So, yeah, when 2 of the greats aren't there, it's you're going to feel it.
Do you think those 2 will be a part of the ceremonial tee shot, like in 15 years, 20 years? Like, is it just obvious?
If they'll do it. If they'll do it.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Like, Tiger may think it's beneath him, which it shouldn't be, but he might. And Phil, who the hell knows what's going to happen with him, with Liv, and how he feels about the golf community and –
Bass, what do you think of this report that I read that Tiger was basically committed to like going to the Masters and playing this year?
Yeah.
And somebody's, I don't know who it would have been, said that's not going to be happening. Like, you need to go. I don't know what was said to him, but I just read a bunch of things online. This is just reading things
You're saying
online.
After the arrest.
Yes. Like, apparently this guy was still committed to, like, going to Augusta and playing golf, which I find very hard to believe.
That is hard to believe. I mean, but, you know, he's a guy, a lot of reports had him really grinding hard at his game of late before, obviously, he flipped his car in Jupiter. But But who knows with Tiger, right? Like Tiger doesn't see the world the same way. 99.999% of us see the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's reasonable to us is not reasonable to Tiger. Like he's done everything differently. He's a different kind of competitor. He's a different kind of human being, and it wouldn't shock me that he said, "What's the big deal? I'm going to Augusta. Fire up the jet."
He's been living in a bubble. He's got 9 lives.
Yeah.
Like he probably thinks that way. And
I'm fine. I didn't get hurt this time. I didn't nearly lose a leg like I did in the last accident.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and he probably loves Augusta because it is a reprieve. You get there, there's no cameras, no phones. Just, you can get in the gates and be left alone.
Yeah.
And go out and play, and it's not the same experience as if you're at a U.S. Open. People are yelling at you. You're at a PGA championship, people have signs. There's no signs at Augusta.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the mugshot behind the 12th tee.
No, you'll be removed quite promptly.
Right. That ain't happening. So he knows they would protect them there.
There's a lot of questions about that California crash, I'll tell you that. People are like, so at 8 o'clock, 7:45 in the morning, this guy wheels his car off the highway into a gorge, and the police didn't test them for anything. It was just like, it's Tiger Woods. He's got to go to the hospital. Like, people are just... Someone's going to be digging around on that mess.
Oh, it's been dug there, Doug. There's been a lot of reporting on it, and it all stinks. Like it sounds like it has all the sort of indications that it was a very poorly done investigation.
Well, and like this one, the original police that got there, they called in someone else because they're like, I'm not dealing with this, which is the right play, I'm sure, in protocol. But, like, the sheriff that was speaking was like, we got called in. And that screams, someone showed up and was like, this is Tiger. What am I supposed to do? Which speaks to celebrity in the U.S.
Yeah.
In the Western world, really, in general. But it was probably a scenario where, who knows? And they're like, how am I supposed to handle this? Call someone else in. And then they went about the process the way they're supposed to. But if you don't do that, it could have been who knows? Let's see where we go here. All right, Dis, Dat, or the Other Ting is coming up here. Martin Biron will join us. We got Dregs coming up just after 5. The Leafs are in San Jose tonight. I've got a list of the 5 top building blocks in sports, 25 and under. All right, the big 4 sports. 5 top building blocks. Obviously, we know where this is going with the Leafs playing Celebrini. My guy, after 4 points last night, unbelievable. Back in the driver's seat for the Hart Trophy as far as I'm concerned. And he's in action tonight. Did you say
tonight. Driver's seat?
Driver's seat. Driver's seat. If they make the playoffs. Like, it goes without saying that he's going to have to make the playoffs to win this thing. That's just the way it goes every single year.
Just think how different it could be. Like, he could be in his second year and have, 14 goals, and the organization thinking, yeah, he's progressing.
Exactly.
A couple years away, he might be like what we think he is.
Yep.
He's got 100 and something points right now.
He's got 40 goals, 65 assists, 105 points. Something like 51 more points than anyone else on his team.
Yeah.
It's
19 years
phenomenal.
old. 19.
So Marty's coming up. Dreg's coming up. That list coming up. OverDrive continues. Powered by FanDuel up on TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
It's almost time for the Masters on TSN.
RJ Decker, Tuesday on CTV. Stream next day on Crave.
Saturday on TSN 1050. Your Toronto Maple Leafs wrap up their West Coast swing in LA versus the Kings. Coverage starts at 6 p.m.
Johnny Toronto!
Hear it all on TSN 1050. The Leafs live here. Now, back to OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, it's a Mail-It-In Thursday, brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP, where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you get it all in 20 minutes or less. So fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. Marty coming up, and Dregs would join us as well into the next hour. Leafs in action tonight. Raptors losing last night. And,
tough loss, man.
Yeah, like the credit to DeMar and Precious Achua had himself a night, and both sides were really injury riddled. But you're at home and it's Sacramento, and you're playing for a playoff spot. I mean, that was a really horrible performance last night.
Aren't they like in a? Doesn't that loss put them in a play-in?
Yes,
Yeah.
they're straddling the line. It's them and Philly, and yeah, it's not good. Like Atlanta's red hot in the NBA right now. They've leapfrogged them.
They get rid of their star player, and they're red hot.
Yeah. Trae Young goes, and they're on fire.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's an
The
incredible
one thing I've
story.
always, like, being a part of pro sports, like, as much as you think, like, talking to, let's say the Leafs, like, people are like, oh, my God, you could never move off of John Tavares or Austin Matthews or William Nylander. They have this attachment where it's like, oh, you could never do that. Why? I don't know, because you just can't have an attachment to a star player. You look at Atlanta, there was like, they had a feeling, somebody in Atlanta said, if this guy's our main guy, we're not going to win. And they decided to move him. And they did. And sometimes it's just not always for the worse. I don't know what people are so afraid of with their attachment with some of those names I just mentioned. Like, are they afraid they can't turn the TV on and watch them anymore? I don't know. But there's been zero winning. Why the attachment? You like the way they stick? I don't get it. It's weird.
Well, I think in some instances, I would guess it's that who is the next one to step up? You know, like I'll give you an example.
As far as what?
Well, who's going to be your best players? Like, you know, you need great players. You need best players.
So it scares the death out of people that if they leave, there's going to be no best player on the team.
But again, sometimes it's uninformed. Sometimes it's overstated. Like, again, I'll give you an example. When Bryce Harper left in Washington, sure, they're like, I can't believe this guy's leaving. Now, they had Juan Soto that was already on the team, and he was like 20. Now, I'm not sure every fan knew exactly what Soto was going to be, but it worked out. Anthony Rendon actually wanted to play baseball that year. So it was a really good position. They had Scherzer and Strasburg and a great staff, exactly. But there's other examples, like Atlanta's, you know, case in point, where they don't have a superstar that, like, sticks out necessarily, but you're doing it by committee. Again, to a much lesser extent, but there was a famous trade with the Raptors back in the day when Rudy Gay got dealt. And remember that deal? It was with Sacramento.
It was a tank move.
And Masai was tanking. And they brought in Chuck Hayes, and was it Nesterovich that came with that deal, or did they sign him? I can't recall.
There was a bunch of guys.
Yeah, the Patrick Patterson was in that
was
deal.
a big part of it.
And they took off.
Yeah.
And they took off. Now, it turns out Kyle was there and DeMar, and they were ready to kind of pick up the pieces to an extent.
But they weren't expecting to.
You're right. So
what held up the deal to Kyle? Didn't somebody want to move Kyle Lowry to the Knicks?
To New York. Masai did.
Masai was
Dolan turned it down.
Masai was fed up, like a lot of other GMs that had Kyle in his early days.
Now, he was, like, immediately fed up. He was barely on the job, and he determined he had to move Kyle.
Well, he had a reputation as a guy you couldn't win with, a guy you couldn't handle,
didn't work out,
couldn't coach.
Now, there's the flip side of it. He turned into a winner.
Yeah.
Right?
One of the great stories of a turnaround that you wouldn't expect in the history of sports, I would think.
So, can William Nylander be the next Kyle Lowry?
Got to get the right pieces around him, and you got to get the right coach to get to him, or the right general manager, or the right data guy, or whoever it is.
Why does it always have to be? We've done it for so long, and I just feel like I'm being negative. But we always have focused Like, has every hockey exec that's come into this city done a piss poor job of supporting these guys with other players? Because we always say it's got to be people around them. Have they ever led the charge in a playoff series or a playoff run where you're like, they were so damn good, we just need to get other guys to be with them and jump on board?
No, that's very valid, and that is something that's important to point out. Everyone is to blame for 60 years of not winning, and certainly this decade, management needs to own some of it, coaching staff has to own some of it. But you look at Brad Treliving, who's out, and everyone's like, wow, he didn't do a good enough job, blah, blah, blah. They didn't have enough depth, or they didn't have this, that, or the other. If you're in management or a coaching staff and you put your team in a Game 7 position, you're done. You've done your job. Like that is an example. Before Game 1, if it folds, you can sit there afterwards and say, man, they weren't deep enough. If you've done enough to put your team and your best players in a position where it's like, you've got one game tonight, show us what you got. And Shanahan did that a lot. Dubas did it a lot. Lou did it. Treliving did it. And they never pulled their weight, the players. Never once did they show up in a Game 7.
We got to get them the right culture. I think he said it the other day. The right culture, the right staff, the right teammates. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it for a 10th and 11th year. Let's bring in Mon Ami.
There he is, Marty Biron, TSN hockey analyst. What's happening, Marty?
It's good, but you know what? What is culture? And I know Pelly didn't want to go into details, but for me, unless you understand what culture is, it's just a word, right? It's just a word. Are your guys paying attention to the discipline off ice, the workouts, the nutrition, the on ice, the sleep, the everything, right? Like that to me is more than just a key word to be thrown out there.
Well, Marty, explain to us what has happened to the culture of the Buffalo Sabres where they fired their GM. They were just looking to be, they were a dumpster fire again. And then all of a sudden they had a historic second half that's just very difficult to find a comparison to. And now they're like people are looking at them as a team that can possibly do damage. What the hell happened to their culture?
Well, you talk about culture. Last year, the year before, even early in the season, I would be there at practice. I'd watch practice, and, you know, the guys are sweating. They're working hard. But I'm like, they're not doing anything. Like, what is going on with practice? It's not 100% speed. It's like, okay, it's a nice play here, a nice play there. And then, I watched them again coming back from the Olympic break. And look, that had already been started. Like December, they win. January, they're winning. February, they're winning. And then they go on the Olympic break, and you're thinking, how are they going to come back? They had a week practice before their first game with double sessions. Zamboni in between, like 45 minutes. Zamboni, another 40 minutes. Battles, intensity. I'm like, this is not the same team that's practicing right now that I saw in October or even last year. Like, the guys just decided, like, we need to be better. And it's funny because Rasmus Dahlin said, we're having more beers as a group together. Well, maybe that's the key. Hang out together. Like, you know, I just saw everybody's all leaving to do their own thing or whatever. And Dahlin this year, because his fiance stayed back home, the health issues, like, he's made a point of saying, I'm going to grab these guys and we're going to be together. Like, number one, he probably thought, I need my teammates to help me because this is going to be a tough year. You know, my fiance, we lost a baby. She had a heart transplant. Like, I need my guys. And he did that. And all of a sudden, it's becoming like the new motto, like, just got to get more beers together. And it's been a difference.
I love that. More beers, man. Generally, that helps. And look at where they're at. Like, they got a chance to clinch for the first time in 14 years tonight, Marty. And, you know, we were talking about the Ottawa Senators situation with all the noise around them and, you know, the Kachuk podcast now. And, you know, if you're Linus Ullmark and you didn't play Saturday because you told the team you can't play effectively. Yeah. And then you go in there a couple nights later and you get shelled. Now, the whole team was awful. Ottawa was terrible in Florida, but he got shelled. How do you get a read on what to expect tonight from Ullmark?
Well, I mean, obviously, the normal human reaction is to, overdo it, right? They're going to start the first 5-10 minutes and they're going to overdo it. Well, will that lead to 3 penalties? Will that lead to trying to force plays? Like, to have success in the NHL, you have to be consistent. Your play has to be very, like, for your teammates to understand what you're doing, you have to almost be predictable, right, to your teammates. Well, if you go in there and you're unpredictable and you're flying by the seat of your pants, and it may not go well. But, I mean, at least they're going to give the effort. The big thing for me is, sorry, I got people calling. They should know I'm on the show with you guys. The big thing for me is that I understand Brady Tkachuk, the situation, and, but what is Keith doing? And I know that we all know Big Walt and whatever, but he's putting his kids in a tough position by making these comments on his podcast and directing them at the organization, the ice time, the teammates. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what's Brady supposed to do? That's his dad. That's right there making the comments. Like, what are you going to do? Like, shut up, Dad. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're just going to laugh and go away with it. So that was a tough situation.
Marty, I want to ask you about a comment that was made the other day, and it was about an organization that didn't see the train coming, and the train, I suppose, was the Buffalo Sabres and the Montreal Canadiens. Like, did that land in Buffalo? Like, what did people in Buffalo think of that comment?
Yeah, there's a few people that talked about it, but I think even the people in Buffalo, that I talked about, I was talking to a few media members and a few fans or whatnot, and they're all saying the same thing. Like, I get that you have to know what's happening around you, but the Buffalo Sabres did not build their team to say, hey, you know what, like Montreal and Detroit and Ottawa and Florida and Tampa and Montreal. No, they're looking to build their team so that they can take the next step as a team. And whatever happens around them. Like, for me, that was a weird comment. Yes, I get that you have to be aware of what's going on around you. But at the same time, who cares if Buffalo was a train, coming at you, or Montreal? Like, focus on your team, focus on your players, focus on your organization. I think that was the biggest thing that when I talked to a few, media members, it's like, yeah, it's nice that Toronto thinks that we're a train that came for them, but at the same time, how do you get back to be successful in the NHL is by not focusing on Montreal and Buffalo and Ottawa and Detroit and Boston and whatever. It's by focusing on Toronto and what you got to do.
Marty O-Dog was making the point about, the Leafs, Keith Pelly, the CEO of Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, talking about how they can retool because they have foundational pieces, is the phrase he used. And it's true, they do. You talk about Matthews and Nylander and Tavares, and maybe you throw Matthew Knies into that mix too. Certainly Pelly did. That's true, but they're also the foundation of a failed playoff team. So we're sort of batting that around, and it's interesting to get out-of-market ideas about, they made the playoffs 9 years in a row before this, and that is something, I guess. Certainly the company that owns the team loved it in terms of revenue, but of course they won 2 playoff series in that span. How do you sort of make sense of, they've been somewhat successful but not having the ultimate success, and then where do you go from here with Nylander and Matthews creeping up on 30?
Yeah, they do have the pieces, right? And I said that maybe a couple of weeks ago. The number one piece you need to get is somebody to play with Austin Matthews. Even 2 years ago, when Matthews wasn't healthy, but, he was still on pace for a 40-goal season. And that's playing most of the time not healthy. So last year, I didn't see the Austin Matthews that is dangerous with the puck when he's shooting, the areas where he's shooting from. And the data will tell you this. Why? Because they didn't have anybody to really get him the puck like Mitch Marner did for all these years. So you need to find somebody that can play with Austin Matthews, that can get him the puck in the right area to score goals. And that's one thing. On defense, they didn't have Tanev this year. I mean, that's somebody that is going to be so important to your defensive structure. The goaltending was one of the best tandem 2 years ago. And this past season, really not, doing the play that they should have. but I think that Tanev was a big part of that. So they have pieces. They have a lot of cap space. I don't know how you spend that cap space because free agency is not going to be what it has been over the last little bit here. Everybody's re-signing. Everybody's, staying with their teams. So, there's ways for the Leafs to move forward right away next year. But you need to be able to get a couple of big pieces. One has got to be somebody to play with Matthews, because you cannot go into a year saying, oh, we're going to have Matthew Nyes and we're going to have Austin Matthews, but we're going to have Domi or Michelli or McMahon or whatever. Like, that is just not going to go. You need somebody there.
All right, Marty. Enjoy the party tonight at Buffalo Clinches. It should be a blast down there, and we'll do it again soon. Thank you, buddy.
Awesome, guys. We'll talk to you soon. I'm still working on having you guys in Buffalo. I'm working on it.
Keep pushing it. Keep pushing it. Love it. All right, Marty. There he is, Marty Biron, our TSN hockey analyst. Marty's saying the Leafs have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of the other thing, and you just got to...
King.
Yes. So, all right. There you go. Dreg's coming up in 15. Jay's off today, back in action in Chicago tomorrow. And we got our best bet still to come as well. Leafs Sharks tonight on TSN 4. OverDrive continues up on YouTube Live.
It's almost time for the Masters on TSN. Now, back to OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
My bad habits lead to late nights, sitting alone, conversations with a stranger I barely know.
All right, Jay's back in action in Chicago tomorrow. A week today, the Masters. I have no read on who is I know the favorite's going to be Scheffler and McIlroy and Rahm and DeChambeau. But I saw an interesting stat the other day that indicated, I think, every winner over the last 10 years, again, an arbitrary stop, like in terms of looking at the data. There's data again. I'm going to bring that word up a lot.
A lot of data.
Every winner over the last 10 years has played in at least one tournament in the previous 2 weeks leading up to the Masters. Something Scheffler's not doing, McIlroy's not doing, Rahm's not doing, DeChambeau's not doing.
Those guys can turn the switch like
I hear
not
you.
many others.
But when they won, though, I'm just saying, they played. Scheffler played in Houston when he won his 2 green jackets, and McIlroy played, I believe, in Houston. And
okay, well, you guys tell me, because I had to speak to my dad today or yesterday, and he's like, I'm not sure about Rory. And I told him, and you guys tell me if I should call him back when we're done work today. I said, you have to take him. No one can drive the golf ball like him. No one can chew up par fives like, yes, there's guys that can, but it's Rory McIlroy. I think it would be crazy not to take him. And I know he's jammed you up several times, Hayes, with a 76 in the first round and then a 67 to make the cut. But I just think you have to take him.
You think he goes back to back, though?
Hard to go back to back.
I feel like he rolls in there, peacocking down the street, and Champions Dinner, a few bottles of wine.
$1,200 bottles of wine.
Do you think he's going to get crushed in the corner with Woozy and Stads?
Yes. I think he's been dying to get in there with those two. Woozy and
So
Stads.
a Brown Liquor Fest in Butler Cabin with Craig Stadler and Ian Woosnam is on this guy's bucket list.
You wouldn't do that? I would. I'd love to party with Woozy and Stads. Dude, it'd be hilarious. Like, I hope he's got them at the main table. Woozy in particular, he's a European, right? He deserves to be there. All right, Dreg's coming up. Leafs, Sharks tonight. Best bets as well. OverDrive continues up on TSN 4.
RJ Decker, Tuesday on CTV. Stream next day on Crave.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Hour 2 OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel. Bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. Leafs Sharks tonight on TSN 4. So we've got... last time I did the panel, I'm on the panel with you tonight, O.
I can't wait, Brian.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It always is. Last time I got to do a panel game, they were playing Schaefer and the Islanders. Tonight, they're playing Celebrini and the Sharks.
Nice.
Right? So it's always fun to talk about these young superstars.
Yeah.
And that's what they are. Like, they're superstars already. Celebrini in particular. You play for Canada and do what he did at the Olympic Games and 4 points last night.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
We discussed it the last hour. I mentioned the idea where the San Jose Sharks could be watching him with 13 or 14 goals kind of creeping up on 20, and they'd be like, we're happy with his progress. Like, we think by year 4, possibly 5, he's going to be a man, and he'll fill out, and he might get 80 points. Guy's got 40 Gs and 100 points.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, that's
you're right.
Same with Schaefer. They could have drafted him, and they're like, they could have thought about a different game plan if things weren't working out. Should he go back to junior? He's a stud in the NHL, one of the league's best defensemen already at 18. Like, it's such a game changer as an organizer. That's why these guys are called organizational changers, man. Like, everything goes around them. They make you better immediately. Do you think the New York Islanders or San Jose would even be remotely close to the positions they're in if not for these young players?
Clearly not. Clearly not. Like, Celebrini's the most valuable player in the league this year. Now, like that, he is the most valuable player to his team, in my opinion, because they have been the worst team in the league the last 2 years by a country mile. Like, horrendous. The only reason they're point out is because of him. Now, that doesn't mean McDavid wouldn't do it if he was in San Jose, but he's not, right? Like, and obviously McDavid is immensely valuable to Edmonton. Kucherov is to Tampa. McKinnon is to Colorado. But what this guy's doing with that roster around him and just like the performance last night, that's one of the best games played by anyone all year. Yeah. Maybe the most important one. Yeah. Divisional rival. They needed 2 points to stay in the hunt here. And he had 4 primary points, 2 goals, 2 assists, 40 goals, 65 assists. I don't even care that he's 19. That doesn't factor in. But he
is having the Taylor Hall season
But he's better than that. Like, you're right, but
dude, I totally agree. I'm talking about the comparison, like, valuable to his team.
Yes.
Where Taylor Hall won the Hart Trophy, he had 42 more points than the next guy, and every night he had a big goal, a big assist, and down the stretch, all anyone was talking about. Because don't kid yourself. You might have to look this up, Doogie, but I think that year, like, McDavid was humming, and all the point getters were right there, and this guy wasn't up there with those totals, but he won the Hart Trophy.
Right, and he was a winger, and I think he had some points in, like, the 90s, like 92, 94. This kid, if he stays out, like, he could torch the Leafs tonight. Now, I know they played last night, but the way the Leafs have defended and been playing recently.
The points night.
They had their build-up against Anaheim. I'm curious to see what the Leafs have tonight. We'll see, because they played well. They fought literally and figuratively the other night. Let's see what they've got. They've been in California. The season's over. Like, it brace for impact possibly tonight. But this guy, he could end up with 120 points. 120 points and 55 more points than anyone else on his team. And if they get into the playoffs, I get it that McDavid is going to end up with 140 points. And McKinnon hit 50 goals last night. That was amazing. Like 50 snipes. It's incredible. Kucherov's been banged up recently, but his numbers are absurd.
But he's got 40 more points than the next guy on the Lightning.
100%.
And the one thing about Celebrini, guys, do we take into account the fact that right now, San Jose Sharks are right on the playoff borderline with 77 points in the Western Conference. The Ottawa Senators are on the playoff borderline with 86 points.
So that's a pillow fight. You're taking that away. It doesn't have to be taken away from McDavid?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying that It's got to be some kind of a factor that they are playing a pillow fight, literally.
Okay. So does it apply to McDavid, though, in your opinion? Like,
no,
if you're a voter.
But I'm saying, yeah.
They're playing weaker competition. You're not wrong.
Competition.
But then why wouldn't it?
So that's why I'm leaning Kucherov in many ways.
Okay.
In many ways, I'm leaning Kucherov.
That's fascinating. Like I love the idea of like hockey people, smart people, writers, broadcasters. They all see it kind of differently, and I love that about it. I really do.
Yeah.
But I'm not knocking the kid.
No,
everything
you're
doing
not.
is incredible.
By the way, our crack staff behind the scenes, I'm only referring to JP. He just told me Taylor Hall was 6th in the league scoring that year.
So how many points did he have, JP? Like, just run it down how many he had and who was ahead of him.
No chance he knows that.
All right,
well, I didn't have it memorized.
Okay,
Sorry, boys. But Taylor Hall had 93.
Yeah.
He was 6th. Nathan McKinnon had 97. Evgeny Malkin had 98. Kucherov had 100. Claude Giroux had 102. McDavid 108.
Wow, Claude Giroux was second in points that year. Wow. So McDavid had 108, which now that you know what he's become, you're like, that was a good year. But like he cruises past 108.
Hadn't found his stride yet.
Right. Exactly. But that is a good application here to the Celebrini check because you're right, there have been a lot of first overall picks that year 2, it's like 18 goals, 52 points, we're ecstatic. If he's hitting this number now, like with McDavid, it was 108 points, and you're like, how good could this guy be? Well, it turns out he could score 64 goals and 153 points in a season. Can Celebrini hit 150 points in a season? Do you think that's like, does he have more ceiling, or is this the ceiling?
It's hard to know.
This is it. The numbers are going to be great and consistently around 100 points, and he's going to work his ass off every single shift. Or does he have more kind of magical offense in his game? I don't know.
How can you limit a 19-year-old?
Yeah.
How can you try and put limits, O-Dog? Like this kid, I mean, he's got major upside still, you have to believe.
Yeah.
Why would this be the peak?
What would his odds be, Hayes, on winning the Hart if he doesn't this year, next year? Like, he would have to be right behind McDavid, wouldn't he?
He'll be top 3 or 5 for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm guessing it'll be the big players here. It'll be McKinnon and
I think it's a massive summer for San Jose. Like, when you got that kid right now where he is, just like Chicago Blackhawks with Jonathan Toews, just like Sidney Crosby or Kopitar in Los Angeles, like, if you get some goaltending and you put some, I don't think it's a great free agent class, but you look at every way to make your team next year real deal Holyfield and just see what the hell happens. And then the talk of, because San Jose was miserable for a couple of years.
Yeah, they were the worst team in the league.
Yeah, and that makes it worthwhile. But we've said it all the time. Jamie brought up a great point when Toronto was going through it, and teams do it. They're terrible for 7 years, man.
Well,
like garbage for 7 years. Like, their draft picks don't work out, and then they cycle through another set of draft picks. Chicago's kind of.
You got to be careful, though. It's interesting because you're right. Your instinct might be, if you're my career, I got to get crazy here.
Not crazy, but just like,
look at
let's
Montreal.
be making the playoffs.
Look at Montreal. Montreal's like, we're keeping our picks. We're drafting guys. Like, they're doing, not to make it about the Leafs, what the Leafs did. Like, the Leafs stopped doing that. It was, we're trading, we're going out, we've got our guys.
We're getting Tavares.
Yeah, Montreal's like, no, we got Hage coming, and we got Reinbacher coming, and we got other kids coming, and we're going to keep drafting, and we're keeping our first-round picks. And
well, sooner or later you get to a point where there's not enough money because the years run out, and guys that are out of their entry deals, and it's like, well, we got to pay all these young guys $8 million at the same time. You got to get different players.
Well, and there's a floor and all that kind of stuff that you got to hit, and the cap's going up.
But they're assets, and you can trade. You can make trades.
Well, that's valid. You need teams to be willing to do that. All right, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline, here's our TSN hockey insider, Darren Dreger. What's happening, Dregs?
Just getting ready for insider trading. So unlike you guys who are on the panel tonight, I'm already suited up. And I'm game shape. I'm ready to roll here.
Okay. Well, I'm the only one in here ready to rock. I'm doing meetings during the breaks. Billy Dodson and I are going to have a little 5-minute chat right afterwards and really be ready to rock.
About what?
About why Pasternak should be in the Hart Trophy race. I think that's what Bill wants to talk about. How Pasternak is the guy that's being overlooked. But, yeah, it's an interesting one with Celebrini and the Sharks tonight, Dregs, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it. I know we will be. Where do you stand on the likelihood that he's chasing a Hart Trophy now?
Well, I mean, he's obviously been in that conversation for a good chunk of this year. and he just doesn't seem to cool off. And, notable mention to Will Smith, who's not in the same dynamic by any stretch, but, what a duo the San Jose Sharks have in these two kids. And I was reminded of this recently, and then I double-checked again this morning in doing my due diligence, because the only guy that works harder on the panel in game prep than I do is Jeff O'Neill. But, because I have a bit more time now, I did invest in game prep for tonight. And I think I read Celebrini factors in on 48% of the goals scored by the San Jose Sharks. I mean, it's an incredible number. And it's also somewhat individually is part of the reason why we're looking at the San Jose Sharks as being a possible contender for a piece like Austin Matthews, or if things implode in Edmonton, a superstar guy. Like they're encroaching that area as an organization where they're not that far away from making a splash, because they can see what they've got in these good young players. I mean, Macklin Celebrini on his own is leading this team potentially into a playoff spot.
Yeah, he is, with Darren Dreger. So it's a perfect segue into a crazy week with the Leafs, clearly. And you mentioned Matthews, and everyone has conceded that whoever is going to be running this operation into the future, the first thing they got to figure out is, are you sticking around? Do you think, I don't know if you know this or not, are there prospective GMs, presidents of hockey operations, that want to know the answer to that before they even accept the job? Is that something that they can ask? Is that something Pelly needs to does Pelly need to give them that answer? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to know before I even accept it, what's going on with this guy.
Well, you would definitely ask Keith Pelly if you're a top candidate and you're being offered the job as head of hockey operations, and maybe it's a little awkward that you go, all right, you're the president of MLSE, but I'd sure like to speak with Judd Moldaver. Even better, I'd like to have direct contact with Austin Matthews. That's tough to do before you've actually signed the document, the contract that makes you the head of hockey operations. But sure, you're having that conversation with Pelly, and you're trusting the information that he's giving back to you. Guys, what I can tell you is, before Brad Treliving was let go on Monday, he was engaged in conversations with Austin Matthews about what the future looks like. I don't think that he was looking for a clear path or an indication from Matthews, who, has 2 more years after this year remaining on his contract, what his intentions are. But they were in communication, and Treliving was trying to explain what he thought the fix would be to get this team back into being super competitive and a playoff-worthy team ASAP. Talking about the retool that Keith Pelly sort of alluded to on Tuesday. But there are no guarantees that Austin Matthews isn't going to have a change of heart. But you can guarantee that there is going to be a conversation with that new hire. Because if Austin Matthews doesn't give you that guarantee and he decides he's going down the Quinn Hughes path of going, I'm not so sure. And in fact, it's less likely that I'm going to extend. Well, that kicks the R word from retool potentially into rebuild pretty quick, I would say.
Darren, what was your overall impressions of the presser and the vibe it sent through the league? Like, just basically, what did people make of some of the comments about other teams, trains coming, people's prospects, your general thoughts on that?
Well, as Keith Jones once said to me, and I've warned this for quite some time, Dregs, it's not what you think, it's what you know. That's the insider's job, right? It's the motto that I live by. So what I know is that the teams involved weren't impressed. Montreal and Buffalo didn't love that Keith Pelly, the president of MLSE, is talking about their players, specifically 2 coveted prospects, 2 pieces, one in Marcus with the Buffalo Sabres and, of course, Michael Hage with the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, these guys factor into being big elements of the success of the future of those 2 organizations. Now, in fairness, I would say, and I know that both those guys were involved in trade discussions, not negotiations. But, the Buffalo prospect for sure was a piece that if Toronto, let's use for sake of argument, was willing to consider trading Matthew Nyes or a bigger piece, okay, that player would have had to have been involved coming back. And I do know that the Montreal Canadiens kicked tires on Matthew Knies. Well, guess what Brad Treliving would need at that point from Montreal to even engage in a conversation like that? It would be Michael Hayes. So I think that was the takeaway. Like, why are you talking about our prospects, our players, let alone the fact that, as you guys talked about before I came into this segment, I mean, the Montreal Canadiens have methodically gone through their rebuild. And now they're coming out of it because they've done it the right way through draft and development. It's not a train that snuck up on the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's not what happened. That's not reality. So that was, I think in this case, Keith Pelly misspoke. But the other elements of his media availability, I think, was more corporate than most were expecting. You know, the buzzwords of alignment, structure, culture. I mean, I'd make a case that they should have had that with Shanahan, Treliving, and Berube. So where is that coming from on the outside now, trying to move forward?
Well, Dregs, you speak about Pelly, you know, maybe talking out of school. I wonder how the ownership down in Carolina felt about him paying a nice compliment to their GM, a very data-centric GM in Eric Tulsky. O-Dog is shaking his head because he doesn't want data used on this show anymore. But
well, I'll just stay quiet on this one, guys. People.
Okay, well, hold on. Dave, I know where you're going with this, and so I'm going to talk about this coming up on Insider Trading. That wasn't just lip service. That you could tell that Keith Pelly is passionate about it because as he explained in great detail, in his mind, it applies to the success of the other sports that he oversees in Toronto, right? So why wouldn't it work, with the Toronto Maple Leafs? And I know based on people that Pelly has talked to that he is keenly interested in the management of the Toronto Maple Leafs being heavily influenced by analytics, heavily. And, I think that what people need to also understand is Toronto's analytics department is second to none in terms of the resources that are poured into it. Now, I don't know. I mean, obviously, Brad Treliving didn't utilize that information to the degree that Pelly and maybe others thought that they should. But I can tell you that the list that he's compiling of potential replacements for Brad Treliving, it's less about the experience of this person and more about how deep entrenched they are and what their analytics background is. I don't know how that flies. I don't know how you can bring an inexperienced manager into a market and into an organization as rich and as deep as the Toronto Maple Leafs and not have hardcore management experience. Maybe you can surround that individual with people that do. That could be part of it. But I'll tell you what, the new hockey operations department most definitely is going to have a strong data influence, O-Dog.
Okay, I like it. Do we know if they have figured out whether there'll be a president and a GM? No. Like, they don't know that, and when are they going to figure that out? Like, what is the timeline on that?
Yeah, well, Pierre LeBrun is going to touch on this as well. And first of all, they've got to hire that search firm, and they haven't done that. And I don't think that they're expected to complete that process until later next week. But when you hire a search firm, you give that search firm criteria. It's like OverDrive AI, right?
Yes,
here's the information, plug it in, and then you give us the names of the people, the list of 10 people that we need to talk to, right? So that's kind of the process that is going to unfold. They're going into it, I think, somewhat open-minded. I just described why there needs to be the analytics influence. I believe that they need a president of hockey operations. I don't believe that Keith Pelly feels the same way. And obviously his opinion matters more than mine does. So it sounds like right now, and as we're having this conversation, they're only interested in hiring a general manager. And then flooding that general manager with maybe hockey experience and other pieces that are going to fill out the hockey operations department.
So 10, 12 assistant GMs, maybe we can get to 15, 20. The Leafs can break records when it comes to, assistant GMs and people helping the GM.
Try to get to 20. That would be a good
that would
number.
be great. I think that would be an accomplishment. with Darren Dreger at TSN Hockey Insider. You mentioned Hage and his scenario. He's still at Michigan, right? What are you hearing on his future and in Montreal? Is he going to get there before the end of the year? Because he's still unsigned, right?
Yeah, still somewhat up in the air. I mean, the market is clamoring for that to happen. But I think that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton and everyone there are approaching this with the same attitude they would and have with other top players in Montreal. What's the rush? What's the rush? And the Habs are playing so well. I mean, sure, you sign this kid. Is he going to play? And where is he going to play? Unless there's an injury, do you just fire him into the mix and into that lineup? So I don't have a firm answer for you, Brian, to be honest, because I think they'd prefer to get him signed and get him up with a big club, but I don't think that they're rock solid on that just yet.
Well, that'll be a story, though. That's kind of like Demidov last year, right? Arriving right at the end and stepping right into the playoffs. Yeah. And, if he shows up and Marty St. Louis puts him in the lineup, man, that Bell Center will go crazy. Like, everything's coming up Habs.
Be a good story.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've just been a great scene and a great story. Ottawa, on the other hand, very different vibes around the Sens. Tkachuks and their podcast and Keith Tkachuk saying, talking about Brady's ice time and talking about goalies that don't play all the time. Travis Green, I think he handled it pretty well today, and he played the old haven't seen it card, which doesn't mean he doesn't know what was said, right? But when in doubt, just go with the old I haven't seen it or haven't heard it line.
Yeah.
But where do you see this going with Brady in the market, with Linus Ullmark and his future, and kind of how important the final 8 games are in Ottawa?
Yeah, I mean, it's like juggling hand grenades, this season in Ottawa. When this team just gets rolling, something comes back and just cracks them. I'm not going to weigh in too heavily on the Tkachuk podcast because I got to tell you, it was clickbait for me. And the shortened version of the clip, I watched it and I went, this is insanity. I can't believe that they're talking about Linus Ullmark in this fashion. I mean, because that was clearly implied by the shortened version of the clip. And then you see the expanded version, and I don't believe that was the case at all. And in fact, I think Keith Tkachuk was more talking about the Florida Panthers, and then there was a jab at Brady's ice time, and I thought Travis Green handled that well today. Look, every coach, whether the player agrees with it or not, they boil down time on ice to a specific amount, and if they feel that that's your maximum and that's where you perform best, well, guess what? When healthy, for the most part, that's what you're going to be given, time on ice. I don't know, that whole idea of the podcast to me is interesting. It works for the Kelsey brothers. Mm-hmm. I don't think it works as much in the National Hockey League for the Tkachuks. I think they're too outspoken, and it just creates too much noise inside their market, especially when, in Brady's case, you're the captain, and there is that undercurrent of his future being in question in Ottawa. It just fuels that. So it's a tough one for sure.
Dregs, the follow-up I had when we were talking about the data GM and Eric Tulsky being mentioned by Pelly, when you mention another team's GM at a major press conference where the whole league's watching, it sends a message. And I'm wondering, like, what's the sort of temperature around the NHL, around a team with the financial heft of the Maple Leafs, maybe trying to poach somebody, saying, you know what, we could take somebody who's never done this job, or we could go get somebody who's won cups doing this job, who's currently employed.
Well, I mean, that speaks directly to all the speculation around Doug Armstrong of the St. Louis Blues, right? I mean, this guy has years left on his contract, and yet we, myself included, have openly speculated on the possibility of Doug Armstrong being a real good fit. And evidently he isn't their fit, because as of an hour ago, Toronto has not reached out for permission to speak to Armstrong. And nor do I look at Doug Armstrong as being an analytics-driven guy. He's more of a traditionalist, not saying he doesn't use analytics. Every general manager does, but certainly not to the degree of Eric Tulsky. I meant to, and I haven't. I wanted to check. It's not an easy process to go through unless the guy gives it to you directly. I don't know. What's Eric Tulsky's contract in Carolina look like? I mean, like honestly,
that's what, exactly. It makes you wonder.
Yeah, can't be a ton of money. I mean, relatively speaking.
I would bet money he's the lowest paid GM in the National Hockey League. Money.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Keith Pelly might make him a very rich man. Very rich man. And then you're talking kind of, we're openly speculating, but you'd have to compensate. Like, this is where it gets crazy. Keith Pelly trades future picks away for a data-driven GM.
But you can't do that anymore, right, Trey?
Can you guys explain to me what Eric Tulsky has done in the league as a general manager?
Well,
I mean...
Yeah.
Like, someone explain it to me. This is what drives me nuts. You just think, oh, he's some whiz kid that knows numbers and analytics. What the hell's he done in the league?
Well, they haven't won yet, and he is surrounded. You know, I think of Rod Brindamore and the good hockey people that they have in Carolina. I got to admit, I'm on Team O-Dog with all of this, and I have lots of time for the information that we all have access to. I have nothing but appreciation and respect for all the great people who invest time and energy into advocating for it and trying to apply it. I mean, until Carolina wins, I don't know. I mean, the players still have to play. The players, you know, I mean, I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong on this. I mean, they obviously made the trade for Mikko Rantanen, you know, initially with Colorado.
Damn lucky he waived to go to Dallas.
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, did Eric, because they are in so many respects based on the type of player, but I don't know that you need that type of background to recognize Mikko Rantanen as a superstar.
I hear you. Quinn Hughes playing Vancouver tonight, Minnesota, Vancouver tonight.
Nice.
He doesn't even know half the team he claims.
Yeah, he said that. Like, they're not liking these comments in Vancouver, man. They're really sensitive to Quinn Hughes.
What do they not like? He was just deflecting, and it was kind of just a comment to get out of answering. He's like, to be honest, I don't even know a lot of their players.
But he was on the team like 2 months ago.
I know.
How do you not know a lot of the players?
It wasn't that much changeover.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Hey, maybe it was a shot where I don't even talk to anybody anymore.
That's what I think.
Screw him.
People are wondering, like, how much of this. And listen, he got out, and they traded him. So he doesn't have to worry about Vancouver anymore.
No.
But he does have a legacy there that you'd think he would consider. But anyway. All right, Dregs, we'll see you tonight. Panel at pregame at 9:30. We'll catch you then.
All right, fellas. Have a good one.
There he is, Darren Dreger, our TSN Hockey Insider. Leaf Sharks tonight on TSN 4. Pregame at 9:30. Puck drop just after 10.
Oof.
That's a late one. Don't Pete Rose on me, man. Don't you Pete Rose me.
The thing I need, Hayes, like, obviously I'm a grown-ass man. I can do my job late at night, but I need a good game. If it's like a snore fest in a garbage game, it is so tough, man. It feels like it's 4 in the morning instead of midnight.
Yeah, the
like excitement, back and forth, good plays, hard hit. Like, give me that game, no issue.
Well, and on Monday they had it, right? Like, it wasn't on TSN, but they had Tree Living fired. They had fights with Gudis. They had everything. And we need some carryover tonight. We got it. I think we're going to get it. I expect it tonight. Mail it in Thursday, brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP where you get an entree, a side, and a drink. And you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. So fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. Got a list. We got best bets still to come. OverDrive continues up on YouTube Live.
Back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
I do the same thing I told you that I never would. I told you I changed, even when I knew I never could. Know that I can't find nobody else as good as you.
All right, best bets coming up later in the hour. Leafs Sharks tonight. A week today, it's the opening round of the Masters. It's incredible. Weather's supposed to be really nice tomorrow. Like raining in the morning, but 18, 19, and sunny in the afternoon. Though short sky will be scattered throughout southern Ontario tomorrow. And there will be people teeing it up because sun's up until about, 7:30 now? You can tee off at 3:30 and get in 18 tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of golf creatures that do some weird stuff, man. Here's a little tidbit about James Duthie. I called him, he called me, and he was in his car, and I was like, first of all, what do you want, and what are you up to? He goes, I'm in my car, I'm going golfing.
When was this? Today?
2 days ago, dude. He was going golfing.
Yeah.
He's psycho. He's got a group of buddies that are crazy, man. They drive around 2 hours away. But the reason he called is he told me, this is how he started the conversation. He goes, I locked up another screen award. There was a 2-hour delay in the soccer game, and I put on a master class on how to do a delay. And I was like, great, man.
Yeah, he was nominated. He is the best host in the game, man.
But he thinks there's going to be an he's locked up an individual award for that performance, for that, rain delay.
From the other night you're talking about, when they were playing the other night.
He said he had to fill 2 hours because of the rain.
It was phenomenal.
He said it was a master class, and he has just wrapped up an individual game award for the performance he put on during the rain delay.
I can reason with that. I mean, it was a phenomenal dancing job because, that's the thing, right, at BMO, and it was really ugly weather, and there was lightning in the area, and they delayed kickoff by at least 90 minutes, if not more than that, and it wasn't a great match. It was not the greatest match ever, but still, it was a 0-0 draw, and you move on. But Duthie was on fire. He was on fire. Stevie Caldwell was on fire. There was a lot of great production. Phenomenal production, but Duthie in particular, I did think had his A game that night.
Is that a category like best filibustering during a rain delay?
Listen, if that's I should win every single year because that's basically what we do all the time.
Fest? Filibustering?
We filibuster. Yeah, you're right. It is. It's effectively just kind of we're killing time here.
I think he just said it was tough. Best individual performance, individuals.
I support that. I support that.
Sounds about right to me.
Yeah, he did a great job, Duthie, and he's not going to be on fumes tonight, even though he's playing golf.
And I was like, thanks a lot for announcing to me that you're going to win another award, apparently.
He is going to win. I didn't get nominated this year. I got nominated last year. I think they threw me a gratuitous one.
I think you deserve it more than him.
No,
but
that's
let me
not
ask
true.
you that it is. When he won, were you kind of
No,
I remember. No, I got to explain mine.
Okay, go ahead.
Jeff Friesen won Canadian Hockey League Rookie of the Year, and he's sitting right beside me. And I thought I was a slam dunk, dude. Slam dunk. And I stood up, and I grin-screwed him so bad, and I secretly hated his guts for 40 seconds while he walked up to the stage.
Especially with a shared first name, too. You must have heard Jeff.
Dude,
and
I did. Jeff, and I kind of grabbed the arms of the chair, and then they said Friesen, and I almost ripped them right off of the hinges.
Yeah, that would do it.
That's tough.
Man. That would do it. No,
that might be. It was Colin Montgomery. It put Colin Montgomery grin-screwing someone to
I
shame.
probably did the same thing because Duthie and I were sitting right beside each other, and he gave me the handshake on the way up, and it was I was ecstatic for him because I figured he was going to win
because you thought you had a chance.
I knew I wasn't winning. I've told you the story. So they do a montage at the Screen Awards for every category, and Duthie had 20 seconds at the whatever it was, the Gold Cup or something, wherever he was. And it was a big picture and different shots and angles of Duthie, and he looked phenomenal. And
it basically
some of them were
told
this,
you that he was winning.
He looked great. Andy Petrillo, the same thing. Andy was nominated, and Andy was doing, I don't even remember why she was nominated, something to do with CBC, something Olympic-related or whatever it was. And Andy, phenomenal. Different outfits, different angles, different. And then for me, it was a quick flash of me.
Really?
in the home studio with the headset on, and it just cut to the next one.
No way.
I'm screwed.
Home studio.
Yes, the home studio, the three idiots, the three of us just sitting there.
Joe from the bridge
flash,
and
gone. I'm like, we're done. There's no chance. I lean into my wife and go, 0% chance of winning.
I want the viz of this.
I'm telling you. Yeah, that wasn't it. That was Duffy at the Canadian Open with me in shorts. There's Shorts guy right there. But yeah,
I want the actual clip they used at the awards ceremony of you getting jobbed like that.
Because
if they put up a 4-second clip of me in my basement with a headset on, I would have walked out, man.
I'm telling you, and it was for the best sports host, and it's predominantly TV. It's predominantly a TV production, and Duffy looks like $1 million down in Atlanta, and he was in New York, I think, and Andy's in this massive studio, looked phenomenal. Like and it's a flash of me in like a golf shirt.
They should have just used AI and put like a yellow wig on you and a Wayne and Garth hat.
I was a filler. I knew it. I'm like, I have a 0%. I literally looked at my wife. I said, "Pack your bag. We're done." We have a 0% chance.
Pack your bag. We're done.
Like it's over. It's not happening, and it didn't happen. All right, so we'll see JD tonight. We'll get to the bottom of that on the pregame to see if he's got a new award coming his way based on the rain delay the other night. But I have my 5 building blocks, 25 and under in the Big Four sports.
Nice.
Okay? You guys ready for this list? We'll go from 5 down to 1. I think number 5 is going to shock you. At number 5, and he's 25 years old, I have Jaden Daniels at number 5. I know what most would be thinking. How can he be there ahead of Caleb Williams?
After the year he had.
Or Drake May, or after the year he had. 100% reasonable. I'm basing this on what I saw his rookie season, where I thought he was phenomenal. He was legitimately up for the MVP. Last year, he was injured. It was injuries, and I know people are getting RG3 flashbacks and all that, and that is concerning, but it's a different owner, different management. The team wasn't any good. The Commanders were terrible last year, and in large part because he was injured. But what I saw to Jaden Daniels allows me to still keep him on this list ahead of May and ahead of Caleb Williams.
No,
okay.
I would have, honestly, I don't want to.
No, it's a subjective list. It's an opinion.
But him, as opposed to, and it's recency bias involved in my opinion, those other two leapfrogged him last year. And until he comes back and outperforms them and kind of leapfrogs over them, then he stays at 3, especially Drake May, man. I think Drake May, as poor as he played in the Super Bowl, it wasn't impressive. Wasn't really great the whole playoffs, but he is the real deal, man. Like, there's a chance that he could be an absolute stud next year and dominate more than he did this year. I have him at 3 behind those two guys right now.
But so to answer that quickly, Dave, before you jump in, they've all had like one really great year.
Right.
You know, Caleb was really good this year, made the playoffs, and Drake May really good this year. Daniels had the really good the year before and got the Commanders to the playoffs and won playoff games. He won them playoff games. Drake May did not win them playoff games. Caleb Williams, you could argue, did it with the Bears, certainly against the Packers. But that's my stance is his athleticism, his clutch. Remember what he was doing on 4th down?
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. So I'm holding out hope for Jaden Daniels. That's where I stand on this.
Yeah, I'm on your side on this. I think, Drake May is going to be a very capable quarterback, but I think the upside of Daniels, given his phenomenal rookie year, like, this guy's got 2 playoff wins.
He was so good, man. He went into Detroit and laid a beating on them.
Let's not forget that.
Yes.
Let's not forget
he was
that.
phenomenal.
It's a great thing about sports, and it's why guys make so much money, because everything's wiped at the beginning of the year, and it's like, okay, what do you got this year?
Yes,
you were great last year, unless you get to the Mahomes level, the Matthew Stafford level, where it's just like, hey, there's that guy who's just always awesome.
And he's earned that. They've earned that.
Of course they do. Both of those guys I just mentioned, they deserve that and they earn that. But these other guys, you got to prove it for a long duration, man, before you become one of those automatic where you walk
100%.
sight unseen and people are like, that's the guy.
100%. All right, number 4 on the list of building blocks in pro sports, 25 and under, Paul Skeens at 4.
Ooh.
Now, again, I get
4, dude?
I thought about putting him higher, and I understand it, but like I looked at starting pitcher compared to the other athletes and how much impact they're going to have. There's going to be no surprise at who's number 1. Everyone knows who number 1's going to be. But I just look at Skeens, and listen, he is a superstar, and he is likely going to be the ace on a staff for the next 12, 13 years, presuming health. Baseball scares me a little bit. Now, it's not that I'm not scared with NBA players, and the guy at number 1 freaks me out a little bit because he is literally a freak of nature. But I just worry about the arm. You're talking 32, 33 starts. We're in a different era where horses don't represent what they once did. There's no more complete games. There's no more, all these innings. And, so Skeens, I'm incredibly compelled by the guys. And I thought long and hard of putting him higher, but I got Paul Skeens at 4. Skeens at 4 for me.
Yeah. How do you feel about building around a guy that throws that hard, that young, O-Dog? I mean, it just feels to me like a recipe for eventual disaster. And I'm not wishing injury on the guy. I'm just saying I wouldn't bet on that kind of arm power. I mean, with the arm health issues that Major League Baseball's having.
Good. He's so good.
I know, but
what I don't have faith in? I have faith in the arm. I have faith in the guy. I have faith in his girlfriend. They're a power couple. I love both of them. I don't have faith in the team that he plays for.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about recognition. Imagine this, if this guy was on a real quality team in a big-time market, it would be so through the roof. That organization, if you did the top 5 dumpster fires in pro sports, they would be up there with the Sacramento Kings, et cetera, because it's a dumpster fire down there.
Yeah, it is.
They don't care. They don't want to spend. Their roster is laughable most years. I haven't checked in on them this year. I usually only do when the Jays roll through town, but
they're getting better. I mean,
dude,
take that for what it's worth. I hear you. They're getting better, but
speaking of young guys, they just called up the best prospect in baseball, 19-year-old kid. I mean,
he's going to play short, I believe,
Connor
tonight.
Griffin.
And that's what they're hoping for. They've been brutal for a while, and they've got prospects coming. But you're right. Like, Skeens is like Roger Clemens was in Boston, but that's Boston in Fenway, where Skeens was doing that there. Anyway, moving on with the list. At number 3, I have Matthew Schaefer. I got Schaefer. Now, he's younger than all these other guys on the list, but I look at a number 1 defenseman, and I had a tough time between 2 and 3 figuring out which way I would choose, because I think you know what's coming. But I got Schaefer at 3. He just the way he skates, the way he moves, he plays so many minutes. He plays with such uber confidence. The game is about pace, and he brings it all. And he's got no pulse on the ice. Like for an 18-year-old to play the way he's playing, like you said earlier, he's legitimately one of the 7 or 8 best defensemen in the league already, and he's 18. So I got Schaefer at 3.
Too big of a number, man. You said too big of a number. Don't you think he's a top 5 defenseman already in the league? Name 5 D-men better.
Werenski, Makar, Hughes.
That's it.
Your boy Bouchard wouldn't be there, right? Maybe not. Okay, I got you. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of good veteran defensemen in the league, but I hear you.
But that's what they are. They're good veteran defensemen. This guy's a megastar.
He's a powerhouse. Okay, so I got Schaefer at 3. I got Celebrini at 2.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I was going to jockey. I kind of flipped a coin. Number 1 center, number 1 defenseman. Pick your poison. I think, from a marketing standpoint, you can probably sell the center a little bit more because it's about points, and he just hit 40 goals and 100 points and what that means. But the guy's 19, and look what he's doing. He's got $1 million smile. He's a bulldog on the ice. He's just an incredible hockey player. Incredible. So I got Celebrini at 2. And I got Wemby at 1, clearly. I mean, Victor Wembanyama, it's not even close. That's the question, is the gap between Wemby and the other 4
everybody
on the
else. Yeah.
I don't think the gap between Wemby in the NBA and Macklin Celebrini and Schaefer in the NHL is that great. I mean,
well, in terms of Celebrini being real close to being the best player in the world, you can make that argument. You could make the argument Wemby's already the best player in the NBA, real close.
Yep.
And if he stays healthy, it feels like a foregone conclusion he will be by next year or the year after.
If you had to pick one guy right now, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander or Wemby, you would take Wemby all day?
Well, for a game tonight, I might take Shea. If you're asking me if I'm built Shea's 26, I think, or
27 years old.
27. Wemby's 19, man. Wemby's 19.
No, okay, let's forget about the age. Let's forget about the age.
He's getting older,
if you had a expansion draft and you had the option as an owner to pick Shea or Wemby, who are you taking? I'm Shea all day long.
Great question.
Forever.
Shea's got the ball in his hand all night.
That's right.
Wemby's, defensively, he's just masterful.
You can't score on him. I mean, he's the best defensive player we've seen
who are you taking?
Years.
Expansion team. You're Dave Feschuk, the owner of the expansion team. Give me your pick, number 1 overall.
You have to go Wemby. You just have to go Wemby. I just
don't think
he's
you
going
do, man.
to.
I know,
he's going
Dave,
to
you
rule
cover
this
the
league.
NBA. You're like I'm not taking Wemby over Shea.
Shea is a phenom too, man. Like Shea is a
It's
beast.
a tough choice.
Yeah, it is. It's a great debate. Like Wemby's younger. He just represents something that we've never seen before.
Yeah, and he
that
might
is
rip off 4
incredibly compelling.
championships in a row where you're like,
They might
I
win
was
this
so
year.
stupid.
Like they're
They got a
second in the
chance.
West. They're arguably the best team in the NBA.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be a great conference final.
There's
You got
another
OKC
example,
against San
Hayes. If you
Antonio.
draft you get the number 1 pick, and as good as Wemby was as a prospect, I don't think there was this automatic vibe where it was like he's so big, and at the first year it was like, what do we got here? And he is unbelievable, and they're like, we're going to be, be contenders for the next 10 years.
It was injury was the only question with him. Like he was as hyped of a prospect as anybody, including LeBron, Shaq. Like it was just more a guy of that size. Can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
And we don't have the answer to that in terms of his whole career.
Nobody stays healthy in the NBA outside of LeBron.
Yeah, and even Shea's had his injury issues this year, but not to the extent where it's going to rip away an MVP. Like Shea's been relatively healthy. And the way his body is, like the way he's built, I think you have more faith that he's going to play more games over the next decade. But anyway, there you go. There's the list.
Good list.
Pretty good players. Oh, Wemby.
I
We're
enjoy
going
these Brian
Paul
Hayes
Wemby.
lists more than
Hazy's list. Okay.
Oh, it's taking the world by storm.
I don't know. I
really
think maybe
enjoy them.
do you take out one of the hockey guys for another quarterback? Because quarterback is so valuable.
Agreed, and that was the one thing I was like, I have to have a quarterback. I went in. Like I knew Wemby was going to be one, and I was like, I need a quarterback. But you could make the argument that you could go with multiple guys. But I just think, again, Celebrini and Schaefer could be the 2 best players in the NHL. I don't think May and Williams are going to be the best players in the NFL.
It's a great point.
I don't see it. All right, best bets coming up. OverDrive continues on TSN 4.
RJ Decker, Tuesday on CTV. Stream next day on Crave.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Yes, she's a 360 all the way around.
All right, Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm on the over in the Leaf game tonight, parlayed with the Habs at MSG this evening. Big goalie fight the other night. Shesterkin and Markstrom. That's a pretty good tilt, too. Shesterkin held his own. But the Habs are rolling right now. In New York, they've picked up a couple of wins down the stretch, but they're still the Rangers, and they're done. And they know they're done. And the Habs are just rocking, man. And they're still chasing that top seed in the division. So That's
another thing I got torched by yesterday. People were like, how could you take the Oilers as the best team in Canada over the Habs? Showing your bias again. I'm like, my bias towards the Oilers? I just think they got McDavid, and they're playing good right now. They're dangerous.
They're playing well. Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Same-game parlays available for every NHL game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 19+, physically located in Ontario. All right, long weekend for us. I think for pretty much everyone, it's going to be awesome. But by the time we get back, the Dodgers are going to be in town, and the Masters is going to be here. Dave, you're going down to Augusta?
I am.
Safe travels. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out today. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in, TV, radio, podcast, web, and, of course, up on YouTube Live. Every show up on TSN's YouTube channel. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.